Bellator pay-per-view number 1, UFC 173. This is International MMA Channel's The Breakdown. Let's get this motherfucker started. First card we're going to talk about for the inaugural pay-per-view number 1, or Alvarez versus Chandler number 3, the pay-per-view event, the first one for Bellator. We're going to talk about Alexander Shlemenko versus Tito Ortiz. Alexander Shlemenko has agreed to go up to the 205 to go ahead and fight Tito Ortiz. Alexander Shlemenko called him out. Bjorn Rebney decided this is a good fight. They're going to go ahead and do it. Tito's 100% well, we'll see about that. But this is actually an interesting one because of Alexander Shlemenko calling on a UFC veteran and a Hall of Famer of Tito Ortiz. This is a great marketing for Alexander Shlemenko, for finally people to understand who this middleweight champion is and what he can do. So, I'm going to talk about the keys to success for Tito Ortiz. Tito Ortiz, number 1, has to take Alexander Shlemenko down to the ground. The takedown is very, very important for him. He is a Sambo fighter, but with the takedown, he has a better advantage of winning this fight. The other thing is he has to keep a clinch on this fight. He doesn't want Shlemenko to get that distance and get that range where he can set up combinations and devastate Tito Ortiz. Tito Ortiz has had places where he was rocked with Rampage, Chuck Liddell. If he tries to box Alexander Shlemenko, it's going to be a long night for Tito Ortiz. The other thing is, once he takes the takedowns, he has to keep Shlemenko on the ground, keep busy, ground and pound, and hopefully Shlemenko does not find a submission, and Tito can find a submission for that. Those are the keys to success for Tito Ortiz to win the fight. The next one is Shlemenko. Shlemenko has to avoid the clinch. Avoiding the clinch is very, very important because Shlemenko is 180. He's not really going to be a big 205, where Tito Ortiz is going to probably walk around 220 to 230 after the weigh-ins. So it's very important to avoid the clinch because Shlemenko is a smaller fighter, fighting out of the 205, usually fights out of the 185. The other thing is he's going to have to set up those combinations. He is notoriously known for his great boxing skills, and that's going to be one of his major keys to success with this, is outbox Tito, look for the knockout, punish the body, just like he did with Doug Marshall. He wants to really be a tactician, take it to the body, and let the knockout come to him. The other one is he wants to stuff the takedowns. And Tito Ortiz is going to want to take Shlemenko down, like I said, and he's going to want to keep it on the ground for most of this fight. He's not going to want to stand up and bang. If he does, it's going to be a long night for Tito Ortiz, and I don't see him winning it that way. So, avoid the clinch, set up combinations, and stuff the takedown is the keys to success for Alexander Shlemenko. Now, my pick for this fight is obviously going to be Alexander Shlemenko. Reason being is that Tito Ortiz is a seasoned fighter. He's had a lot of injuries, and when there's not injuries, there's a lot of personal problems. He recently got a probation for his DUI. It always seems if he's not injured, he's dealing with personal issues, and I think this affects his fights as well. Tito Ortiz has been out for almost a year and a half or more. Alexander Shlemenko is a current running, fighting middleweight champion in Bellator and hasn't really taken a break. So that's more of an easier training camp for Alexander Shlemenko than it would be for Tito Ortiz. This is a great fight. It might have fight of the night easily written all over it if Alvarez and Chandler doesn't take it. That is my picks for Tito Ortiz versus Alexander Shlemenko. We'll be back with the rest. So next fight we're going to talk about is the co-main event. It is King Mo versus Rampage Jackson for the contentionship to fight Emmanuel Newton for the light heavyweight championship belt. This is an interesting fight. King Mo came off a loss from Emmanuel Newton, came back. Rampage has been on a 2-fight winning streak, first beating Joey Beltran and kind of getting his title to go ahead and fight for the belt. This is an interesting fight. It's stylistically, it's looks like it could be a nightmare for either Looks like it could be a nightmare for Rampage Jackson. These are the keys of success to beat King Mo for Rampage. Number one, he's got to find his range and look for the knockout. Rampage is known for his knockout. He has that one punch that can knock you out. He's got to keep his range, got to keep his boxing very tight. Get in, get out, and look for the knockout. He's also got to keep this fight a stand-up fight. Doesn't do too well when he's on the floor. He can get back up. We've seen it with Rashad Evans, but he's never really known to be a ground fighter. So he has to keep it on the stand-up fight. The other thing is avoid the takedowns. He's got to learn how to stuff those takedowns. Don't allow King Mo to put him in a clinch and take him out that way. So those are his key success for a victory for Rampage Jackson. For King Mo, it's going to be a little bit different. He's going to look for the takedown, set up the takedown, take down Rampage Jackson, make it a ground and pound festival for King Mo in a very uncomfortable fight for Rampage Jackson. The other thing he's going to have to do, and we've seen Forrest Griffin do with Rampage Jackson, is set up those leg kicks. Rampage is known, does not like leg kicks, and what leg kicks actually do is when the inside leg kicks in that, it slows down the legs. Your legs get exhausted. You can't throw that power, devastating punches you would be able to throw, because if people would know from boxing, the power comes from your feet up, and that's how you get that knockout power. So one of the important things for King Mo is he's going to look for those leg kicks, inside leg kicks, and just start punishing Quentin Rampage's legs on this fight. Very important. Other thing is keep this fight on the ground. Once he can take Rampage down, do not let him smother him, and do not let him get back on the ground, back up, standing up. Those are his major things that he has to look out for. Now, for my pick for this fight, I'm gonna have to pick Rampage Jackson. I like him. I think he can stuff the takedowns. He's a very good boxer. King Mo, if he wins, is gonna be a very boring fight. He's just gonna take him down, grind him out, and just put a wrestling seminar on this guy. So I'm going for Rampage Jackson. The other reason I'm going is we already seen Emmanuel Newton fight King Mo, and King Mo has showed that even training with the Mayweathers in that, he still doesn't know how to put up a good guard and defend himself properly with some strikes. So I think Rampage Jackson is going to find that opportunity, and it's going to be a KO victory for Rampage Jackson. If not, it's going to be a horrible, long, grueling match. And we're going to hear the same complaints Rampage has made from the last MMA fights that he has lost due to ground game. But those are my picks for Quentin Rampage Jackson and King Mo fight. So now for the main event, Michael Chandler versus Eddie Alvarez, number 3. This is a great one, actually. This is the last of the trilogy of these two. The first time they met, Michael Chandler submitted a submission victory against Eddie Alvarez. Then for the second one, it went to decision. They gave it to Eddie Alvarez. Very close fight. Only loss ever for Michael Chandler was that loss to Eddie Alvarez from the last fight that they had. Eddie Alvarez had came off of a long break, about almost 2 years that he wasn't fighting during litigations and stipulations of his contract and stuff like that. So a lot of questions were asked about that time. What did Michael Chandler look like and everything else, and what was Eddie Alvarez going to look like being off a long stint of not fighting? Keys of success for this one for Michael Chandler, it's going to be the takedown. He's going to want to take the takedown. He's going to want to lock a submission as well. He's going to want to keep this fight on the ground. Those are the keys of success to Michael Chandler. He's a great fighter, but his pedigree is a high-level wrestler. And once he has Eddie Alvarez on the ground, which is extremely hard, if he can do it, then it's going to be a hard night for Eddie Alvarez, as we saw the last time. I think the last fight went by like 2 points that Michael Chandler was not named the champ. Eddie Alvarez, keys to success for him. very easy. He's going to want to keep his range and distance. He's going to want to keep the pace of the fight. He wants to control the ring, and he wants to do punches and bunches. And what I mean is, Eddie Alvarez is really not known as a knockout artist. He has some knockouts in there, but his is just tiring those fighters out. So the combination of punches and bunches, meaning as much punches as he can throw and make it a high-level boxing match, is going to go even better for Eddie Alvarez. Eddie Alvarez is one of these phenomenal guys that at one time was rumored to come and fight for the lightweight championship if the Bellator contract did not cease. UFC was really looking interested in buying him. Then they say they weren't, blah, blah, blah. But Eddie Alvarez is a legit fighter, so is Michael Chandler. Before, with the thing with Bellator is that their fighters are barely getting renowned. So we have two high-level fighters that really don't have that many losses, and I don't believe Eddie Alvarez's only loss in Bellator is to Michael Chandler, and the rest of them are all wins. And I know my UFC has always said, well, we have the best of the fighters. But I think it took a while for Bellator, and this is why I like the tournament style. And now we're starting to really see the best of the best fighters from Bellator start coming up. Like Daniel Strauss, Emmanuel Newton, a lot of these fighters, Ryan Martinez, a lot of these fighters are coming out of the woodwork, and it works because of the tournament that we start seeing these fighters, and you get to actually cheer on like the fighters like Daniel Cormier with Strikeforce. We got to see him rise from the top, and one before he was really a nobody, and he came up. The other one that they just lost was, they lost a lot of fighters, but the thing is with John Fitch, not John Fitch, I forget, but back to the Bellator. My pick for this one, I think Michael Chandler really wants to regain that one loss that Eddie Alvarez gave to him. But unfortunately, I think Eddie Alvarez is a lot quicker than Michael Chandler, and I think he has a well-rounded set of MMA tools and arsenal that Michael Chandler still does kind of have, but I think Eddie Alvarez is the 0.10 of that pedigree, where he has the cardio, he has the boxing, he has the wrestling, he has the stuff, he has the takedowns, he has the way to get back up. Before in the last fight, he wasn't able to get back up, and then the recent fight before, Chandler would take him down and even try to choke him at one time, but he knew and he didn't panic, and he was able to get back up and bring that fight back to the ground. So I'm going to give it to Eddie Alvarez. I think that it's going to probably go to decision. It's going to be one of these great epic wars, and I think it's a great one for pay-per-view. It was a shame that the last time they gave it free. I felt at that time they could have promoted it as a pay-per-view, and I'm happy that they are now. Those are my predictions for the Bellator one, and I'll see you for the 173 predictions. Thanks.